afternoon, so I thought I'd give a bit of a reading update. For this video, I wanted to do a realistic reading week, but couple of things, I guess a disclaimer. Currently, I'm unemployed, so my reading habits right now are definitely a lot different than when I was working like a 9-to-5 full-time job. Second thing is, this week is super busy for me because I have a family event coming up on Wednesday that I've been helping to prepare for, and I presume that Wednesday I will have no time to read besides like right before bed. But yeah, I guess this would be considered a realistic reading week. It's just not typical of what my reading weeks usually would look like, I guess. I don't even know if that really makes any sense. A couple of things that I wanted to do an update on. Also, it is like super duper windy today, so I don't know if the mic is picking that up because it's really loud. But for my reading update, I am in the middle of reading Finale by Stephanie Garber. This is the third and final book in the original Caraval trilogy. She did recently come out with Spectacular, which I think it's a Christmas novella, if I'm not mistaken. I wasn't planning on reading Finale anytime soon, but I think because Spectacular recently came out, I kept seeing TikToks about Caraval as well as Once Upon a Broken Heart, and it made me really want to reread Once Upon a Broken Heart. So I was thinking if I finish the Caraval series, then I can go into my reread of Once Upon a Broken Heart with like the full picture. For those of you who don't know, the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy is a spin-off series from the Caraval trilogy. It's like set in the same world. I feel like I can't give too much of a description of what this book is about because it is the third in a series, so that would be a bit of a spoiler. But the Caraval trilogy as a whole revolves around these two sisters, Scarlet and Donatella. The first book, Caraval, revolves around Scarlet, and then the second one is more focused on Donatella, and the third book is about both the sisters, essentially. Caraval itself is like a magical performance game. Imagine like a circus carnival situation, and it's run by Master Legend. He has magical powers in this world. They have magical powers. It's a YA fantasy romance. I am not enjoying the Caraval trilogy as much as I enjoyed the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. I do still like Stephanie Garber's writing. It's very whimsical and magical, but something about this series doesn't hit as hard as Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I know that's a pretty popular opinion. Overall, I am enjoying it. It is a fun time, but I don't really look forward to picking up the book. It's not something like I'm thinking about when I'm not reading it. But I started this book on, I think, Saturday or Friday. I've been in a teensy bit of a reading slump in which I keep picking up books and reading about 50 pages and then not wanting to continue the book. But I kind of just power through and kept reading. So I think I ended up reading about 100 pages yesterday. Started today at 322 pages. And this book has about almost 500 pages, like 490. So I have a little bit more than 150 pages of Finale left to read. The next thing I wanted to talk about was my reading journal updates. I started doing a reading journal back in July of this year, so pretty recently. And what intrigued me about doing a reading journal was because I used to do bullet journaling when I was in university as a planner. I think I did it for like 3 years consistently before I stopped, but it was such a nice creative outlet to have, and it was also productive because I was using it as a planner. But the trend back then for bullet journaling was to do a lot of drawing. My whole entire bullet journal was pretty much just me drawing it, and I've always been quite the perfectionist, so whenever something looked bad in my bullet journal, it would bug me so much. And then eventually I was just so busy with school, work, and extracurriculars at the same time that my bullet journal kind of took a back seat, but I would still be using it as a planner. So the way I was making spreads, it was just so simple, and I would mess up and the lines would be ugly, and it just kind of bothered me so much that I wanted to stop doing bullet journaling because I didn't have the time to make it aesthetically pleasing. So when I found out that when people do reading journals, they pretty much just scrapbook, and it's kind of less drawing depending on who's doing the reading journal, but from what I've seen, it's more scrapbooking and gluing and pasting things in and stickers and whatnot. So I figured that would be a great way to have that creative outlet again without having the stress of drawing things by hand all the time. I updated my like yearly spreads and trackers and things yesterday. So like my series tracker, I updated the Caraval series because I read Legendary, and then I also added the Crimson Moth series because I read Helpless Hunter in October, and then I updated my 2024 like bookshelf spread. I actually do not like this spread anymore. I like the setup of it, but then when I started coloring, I didn't like it because my thought process was to color in the number of books I read each month, so each color represents a month. But because of the way I drew the books, like sometimes there's just random stragglers of colors, and I feel like it makes it not look very pleasing to the eye. And then I also hated it because I used this like bright yellow color for June or July, and it kind of just ruined the vibe. I also updated my 2024 statistics page and then my 2024 Hall of Fame. I added in The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson for September, and then The Ministry of Time by Callie and Bradley for October. Moving on into October, this is what it looks like. I filled in the calendar on the side with like the timeline of when I read books. This is my first time doing it for this month, and I was going to continue doing it, but I realized that I don't really overlap books that much when I read them unless I'm listening to a book on an audio. Then in that case it overlaps with other books, but I don't often do that, so I figured I'd scrap it for November. And then I just filled in my October TBR and my statistics. And then I did my October wrap up, of course. Printed out little pictures of all of the books that I read in October, and then I did a little ghost theme. And then I just printed out little star rating stickers and then colored those in, and then added a little blurb of what I thought of each of the books. Realistically, this spread only holds 8 books, so I had to double up for these two. And then this next spread I'm not happy about. It's like possibly the ugliest spread I've ever done in any of my bullet journals and then in my reading journal, but I wanted to do a spread for The Ministry of Time. I've been doing like full page spreads or double page spreads for books I really like or series I really enjoyed, and this is not my best work. I hate how the title turned out. I tried to do a similar title to like the cover of The Ministry of Time, so that's why it looks like that. And then I just added a little journal entry, and then I printed out some photos, added some washi tape and some stickers to match the vibe of the book, but I hate how the title turned out so much. And I was telling myself I'm not trying to be a perfectionist for this reading journal. If it turns out ugly, it's fine, but I left this page blank for another like full page book review situation, and I don't think I'm going to use it because I want to pretend that this page does not exist because I really dislike how it looks. And then the last thing I did the other day that I don't think I recorded me doing was my November setup, which looks like this. I love these stickers and I love the color scheme. November is actually my birthday month, so I wanted to save these stickers specifically for November. I added in my November TBR and then a little statistics section, and then this is just the November like title page, I guess. Last thing I wanted to update on right now is all the books that I got from the library, which also includes books from my November TBR. 3 of these books are in my November TBR. One of them was from my October TBR, but my haul didn't come in until November, so I'm really excited to read it because I've been wanting to read this book for the longest time. And that book is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. I believe this is YA, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's fantasy because it's like a whole different world. I think it's just because it has magical realism in it, which I love reading magical realism books. And then for the rest of my November TBR, that includes The Storied Life of A.J. Vickery. This is by Gabrielle Zevin. This author also wrote Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which I gave 5 stars to last year and also recently when I reread it. I think this is considered a lit fic or a general contemporary fiction. I think this book is about like a grumpy old man who owns like a bookstore, and then something happens and I think there's like a mystery element or something to it, but heard a lot of people give this good reviews. Other books in my November TBR include The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, but this is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy, or Mistborn 1, I think that's what it's called. I read The Final Empire back in September. I think I gave it 4.5 or 4.75 stars. I did really enjoy it. There were elements that I didn't enjoy, and I don't think I have the same connection to that book as other people do, but I still want to continue the series and also just get further along in the Cosmere as well, because I own a copy of Trust of the Emerald Sea. I really want to read that eventually, but I want to read more books in the Cosmere before I read that book. And then the last book that I got from the library that is included in my November TBR is If We Were Villains by Emma Rio. This is like an OG Book Talk Bookstagram book. It's dark academia. I think there's like elements of Shakespeare in it. It's about kids who recreate Shakespeare plays or something, and I think there's like a murder mystery going on. I'm not entirely sure, but you know, a lot of people give this book like 5 stars. Other books in my November TBR include Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I've had this on my shelf for a couple months now and I've been wanting to read it, but I just haven't been in the mood to pick this up. But randomly when I was creating my November TBR, I really wanted to read a sci-fi book. I think it's because I just finished The Ministry of Time and I was enjoying the sciencey aspects of it. And then other books in my November TBR include Dance of Thieves by Mary Pearson and The Woman by Kristen Hanna. Anyway, I've been talking for a very long time. Now I think I'm gonna read for a little bit. Okay, I just got back from the grocery store. I went on a little bit of a walk and then I went to buy some groceries. Last night I did stay up and I did finish Finale. I feel like the way I felt about it throughout the whole book was kind of how I felt about it as I was finishing it up. There were some moments where I was surprised and like intrigued and things happened, but I didn't really feel any sort of emotion for any of the characters throughout the book. Or well, I didn't feel any strong emotions, let's say, about any of the characters throughout the book. I'm glad I could check it off my list in the sense that I'm kind of glad it's over and that like my curiosity for it has been satiated, because I was curious about what happened in this book and what led up to Jax in Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. Other than that, it was like a good, fun time. But I don't think I'll be thinking about the storyline of these characters anytime soon. Not in the same way that I think about Once Upon a Broken Heart or like any other book that I really enjoyed. I think I'm going to give this one 3.75 stars. I do think I liked Finale better than Caraval and Legendary. I feel like a lot of people have the opposite reaction to me, that they loved the Caraval games and they missed that aspect of it in Finale. But I enjoyed like the aftermath of it. So since I finished Finale last night, that means I get to start a new book today. I decided to read The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. This was on my October TBR, but then I didn't get around to it because my hold didn't come in from the library. I'm not that far in, I'm like 5 pages in, so I don't really know how to give my own synopsis of like what this book is about, but from what I've gathered so far, June Farrow, the main character, she's trying to break a curse that her family's been experiencing. All the Farrow women in the past have gone mad, they ended up disappearing or something happens to them, and currently June has been experiencing things where she's seeing and hearing things that aren't there, so she thinks that she's starting to go mad like all the Farrow women in the past. And her mission is to get rid of this curse and make sure that no one in the future experiences the same issues that past Farrow women have experienced. I do have a family event tomorrow, and today's going to be spent prepping for it, so I don't think I'll be able to get that much reading done, but I hope I can at least read a little bit before bed. Similarly with tomorrow, we'll be like cooking and doing all of that, and then the event itself, so I don't think I'll be able to read that much either, but hopefully I'll be able to read before bed. But I'm about to get ready for bed, and then I'm just going to read for the rest of the day. Friday morning. I just came back from running errands. I have not read that much in the past 3 days. On Tuesday, I think I mentioned I started The Unmaking of June Farrow, but it was just like I read a couple pages. I read 14 pages on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday I had the family event, which took up my whole day, and I was super tired at night. I read a whopping 3 pages of The Unmaking of June Farrow right before I fell asleep. I did get a little further into this book yesterday night before bed. I ended up reading until page 83, which is chapter 8, which means I read about 60 pages yesterday. I am really enjoying this book so far. With this book, you get right into the thick of things immediately. Like right in chapter 1, you find out that June's grandmother died, and that kind of triggers a whole chain of events. You also find out that June's experiencing episodes and hallucinations that her grandmother had and her mother had and all the Farrow women before her had. So already you have that backstory of June. You get introduced to all the characters in the small town of hers that are affiliated with her life. You get backstory into her mother. Within the first 75 pages, the setup is already there for you, and then you kind of get into the action already as well. There's a little bit of a mystery element to this because June has always wondered what had happened to her mother, who just randomly disappeared one day. You get introduced to the magical realism aspect of it. So a lot has already happened within the first 80 pages of this book, and I'm so intrigued to keep reading. I feel like it can be a super bingeable book, but the prose is so beautiful that I don't really want the book to end. So I'm also reading at a slower pace to appreciate the writing a little bit more. I also think this will be the last day of this video because tomorrow is Saturday, so I'm generally pretty busy with like errands and chores and other things that are going on Saturday. Also, excitingly, tomorrow is my birthday, so I'll be busy at nighttime as well because I'm going out for dinner. So I think today will be the last day of updates. I also forgot to mention that I did some book shopping because I was scrolling on Instagram after my family event and I got an ad that Book Outlet's $7.99 or less fiction sale was back on. I think in the States it's $6.99, but in Canada it's $7.99, and it didn't take much convincing. I didn't even actually have any books on my radar that I really wanted to buy, or at least no books that I really wanted to buy that I could get from Book Outlet, because books on my wish list at this moment are The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, but the cover that's like white with the blue flowers and the gold detailing, I really want that one. The Unmaking of June Farrow, like my own copy, because I'm already enjoying it and I love the writing and the prose, so I wish I had my own copy to like annotate it and stuff. But hardcover copy of The Unmaking of June Farrow in Canada is like $40. I also love a copy of like Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, Pyrenees Sea by Susanna Clark, Erin Morgenstern's books, so The Night Circus and Starless Sea. I also love to buy Frederick Bachman's books, and also love a copy of The Will of the Many. This wasn't the point of this clip. I wasn't trying to talk about my wish list. I just wanted to talk about my Book Outlet haul. I won't be showing the books that I got in this video because I obviously don't have them yet. I just bought them. But yeah, I did some damage at Book Outlet the other day. I just wanted to talk about it because I felt like it was very fitting for this theme of bookish things that I did this week. Of Unmaking of June Farrow, and it's getting so good. I feel like I put a lot of pressure onto this book because I've heard really good things about it and the premise is really intriguing to me, so I keep thinking that I'm gonna rate this 5 stars. But I try not to go into books with like an expectation, whether it be a low one or a high one, just because I am easily influenced by other people's opinions. But I did have a really high expectation for this book. Upon reading the first couple of chapters, I already liked the writing. So in my mind, if the plot is as good as I think it could be, the writing is already there. So I was enjoying it already with the idea that this could be a very highly rated book for me. And now that I've read over 100 pages, I definitely think that this has 5-star potential, and I'm going to predict that this will be a 5-star read for me, if not a very high 4-star. Finally enter the part of the book where June has experienced time travel and she's kind of discovering that time travel exists and that the Farrow women are special, they're not just crazy. And I think I've met June's love interest, so I'm very excited to see where the romance goes in this book. Unfortunately, I definitely won't be finishing this book in this reading vlog because it is the last day of the reading vlog. I have like 200 pages left, but my prediction is that I will give it a 5-star or like a very high 4-star if anything. That pretty much concludes this reading vlog. As I mentioned earlier, tomorrow is my birthday, so I will be doing a birthday dinner with my partner, and I might put in some clips of that, but if I don't, then this video will probably end here. But if I do, then you'll be seeing a few clips of that after this. It's been a super fun week of doing a lot of bookish activities. I went to the library, I updated my reading journal, we did some reading, I did some book shopping, which I wasn't expecting to do this week. So overall, it's been a very good week. I just haven't done as much reading as I usually do. That concludes today's reading vlog. I would love to know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this video. I'd also like to know what's on your November TBR because because I'm always looking to add more books on my TBR for some reason. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.